What's up, everybody? Welcome to the 4040 Vision podcast. I'm your host, Khaled Abdallah, and I'm joined today by my fellow host, Sulman Haque. And today we are talking about our predictions for the 2025 NFL season. We're going to be taking a look back at some of our predictions, specifically for the playoff teams. We're not going to go through all 32 teams. That's probably be at least 2 or 3 pods. So we'll focus on the playoff teams. We'll wrap up with some of the surprises from the NFL season, maybe some teams that we didn't think were going to make it and made it in, and some teams that didn't make it and why that didn't happen. So we'll start off, we'll go conference by conference. So we'll start off with the AFC, and we'll start with the 1 seed, the surprising 1 seed, Denver Broncos, I think it's fair to say. So before the season, their over-under was 9.5. Both of us went slightly over at 10 wins. So they ended up going 14-2. So they blew 14-3, I should say. It blew well past their over-under. So we were kind of right about the Broncos, but what did we get wrong about them?
I just think we didn't expect them to get to 14 wins. Like, that didn't seem probable for them, but they were a pretty healthy team. They have a good defense. Offense is pretty solid. Like, I forget, if you look up the Broncos, I think they're top 10 respectively in both categories, or like close to top 10, like in terms of offense and like defense. So they're actually a pretty good team. And also, other teams around them in the AFC West weren't so hot, right? Like the Chiefs, the downfall of the Chiefs, right? That helped them elevate a little bit better than what we thought. So yeah, I think, I don't know. We'll see. The Broncos also got really lucky in 1-score games, right? I think they have something like ridiculous where they're like 9-1 in 1-score games or something like crazy like that. So that helped them. We will see what happens next week when they face the Bills. That's going to be their test right there.
Yeah, this was a really weird team to watch. Obviously, they had an elite defense. That's not a secret. The offense was so strange. They'll go 1 week and they're putting up, 30 points against the Giants. Then the next week they're struggling to score against the Raiders in prime time. They put up like 13 points and win that game. It's one of those teams that it takes a while for the offense to get rolling. They don't have a clear number 1 wide receiver that really stands out. Bo Nix is still like an unknown commodity. Like, I don't know. I mean, he's been tested obviously during the regular season in some of these high pressure games, but he's still somebody that I don't really trust. So I think we were spot on that they would be like a 10, 11 win team. And like you said, they benefited a lot from the Chiefs obviously fall off with the injuries and everything like that. The Chargers being just okay. And then of course the Raiders being, the worst team in the NFL literally. So they just banked, 6 wins right there. But there is like an air of fraudulence about them. So they're going to get a big test against Buffalo this weekend. How do you see that one going?
I think, man, Buffalo's also another team. I know they're battle tested, but they're just a weird team. They're up and down, hot and cold. Like, I can't figure Buffalo out. Josh Allen has like no weapons. Like, I can't figure the Buffalo Bills out either. So just because Denver's at home and it's hard to beat Denver at home, I'm gonna take the Broncos over the Bills. I think Denver gets to the championship game, at least in the AFC.
Yeah, I'm with you. It just seems like Buffalo is barely scraping by every week. They'll make like one play here, one play there, whether it's a defensive turnover or Josh Allen just kind of putting the cape on. I don't think he'll be able to put the cape on as well against Denver as he did against Jacksonville. So I'm with you. I see that going the same way. The second seed here, another team that was very surprising for some of us, at least, the New England Patriots. Their over/under before the season was 8.5. You were spot on. You went 10 wins, so you went over. I went under. I did not see it with the Patriots, and then week 1 they lose to the Raiders, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, this is going to be a mediocre to below average team. They end up also winning 14 games, but they don't get the tiebreaker, so they're the 2 seed. They blow out the Los Angeles Chargers this past week. So what did we get right or wrong about the Patriots?
Yeah, I remember I was like, Khaled, they're gonna be a playoff team. I'm telling you this. And part
You
of
were
that reason
convinced.
was I knew Drake May was gonna. I was convinced. I told you. I saw enough from Drake May where I'm like, he's gonna take the leap, and he took the leap. I think that's part of it. And their defense was like, they loaded up on defense, and their defense was pretty nasty. I think week 1 was just whatever, figuring it out, kind of week 1 hiccups there, but they figured it out. I do think they will be playing the Broncos in the AFC Championship game, so it's gonna be Broncos Patriots. But yeah, I like what they're doing over there in New England. They're kind of getting back to their roots, right? Building the defense, having a nasty defense, and then hopefully if they don't make the Super Bowl or they make the Super Bowl, whatever, but they go get Drake May some wide receiver help because Stephon Diggs isn't it, right? Like, I don't know. Go trade for Brendan Ayuk. I'd love that. Trade a second rounder for Brendan Ayuk or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
Do
get
something
another
for
problem
Drake May.
child in that building. I don't think they want that with Diggs. Seems like every week he's either like he's getting somebody pregnant or he's getting caught in the news or something like that. So I would not want another guy like Stephon Diggs on that team. How much of the strength of schedule stuff? So they have the second best offense in the NFL. So credit to them for that. They obviously also had a very, very easy schedule. How much of that do you attribute to their success, or are they a legitimate contender?
Yeah, I mean, obviously to get to 14 wins, I think having that easy schedule definitely contributed to that, right? Like, I mean, 2 games against the Jets, 2 games against the Dolphins, right? That's like easy 4 wins right there for them. So I do think easy strength of schedule got them that 14 wins, but I think even if they had a little slightly tougher strength of schedule, they'd still be a playoff team. So I do see them as one of the more legitimate teams. I do think it's going to be Broncos Patriots go fighting for the chance at the Super Bowl, which I don't love that, but that's fine. At least it's
Yeah,
not
it's
the
like
Chiefs. It's not the Chiefs. That's all I care about.
yeah, it's like 2014 again, right? It's like Brady Manning all over again, but with a different cast of characters. I mean, the Patriots, it's one of those teams where it's really hard to get a good gauge of them as a team because of the schedule that they played. I mean, even like their signature wins, quote unquote, like when they beat the Ravens in prime time, people were like, okay, this is a legitimate team. The Ravens were not a playoff team, so it's not that great of a win. You get the Chargers, who have the worst offensive line in like the NFL history, maybe for a playoff team, and they just beat the hell out of them. So it's one of those teams where it's like, okay, it's fair. You can only play who's on your schedule. It's not like college where you can pick your schedule ahead of the season or whatever. So I think it's fair to discredit them a little bit, but at the same time, they have the second best offense in the NFL. I think they had the fourth best scoring defense in the NFL. It's kind of like a in between situation where you can give them credit, but also wonder like, okay, maybe there's a little air of fraudulence here. The third seed, the Jacksonville Jaguars. So obviously they just lost to the Bills this past weekend, but they were a very good team for most of the season. Another team that took a little bit to get going. So before the season, their over under was 7.5. You went over at 13. You're 3-0 so far. I went under at 7. I did not think Liam Cohen in his rookie season was going to build a contender. I thought he was going to build, thought it might take a little bit to get going, but they ended up going, 13-4. They win the AFC South, and of course they lose in heartbreaking fashion. But what did you see with the Jaguars that I did not before the season?
Yeah, it's the quarterback. It's Trevor Lawrence, right? Like he didn't look great. People are like, he's not going to be great, but Liam Cohen is an offensive, mastermind, and you saw it, right? You saw Trevor Lawrence down the stretch. Like I think his last like 6-7 games, he was like maybe the number one quarterback in the league, like in terms of like
Yeah,
QBR or
last three,
something. Like
4 weeks. Yeah,
he
for
was
sure.
just yeah, like he was going insane. Like he's throwing like 4 touchdown passes, 300 yards, like 4 or 5 weeks in a row. I mean, like he was just going off the charts, and that's kind of what propelled him. I think obviously disappointing seasons for like Brian Thomas. Like you're like the fact that Trevor Lawrence did this and Brian Thomas wasn't like a big part of it, right? It's kind of crazy. And then I think people thought Etienne was gonna fall off, but he was actually pretty good. Their defense
Great.
was
Yeah.
actually pretty decent. Like yeah, so I think like those are the things like people were like, oh nah. It's the Jaguars. They're always like losers, right? So, but actually, they were pretty decent, and I think they just build on that next year.
Yeah. They had top 10 units on both sides of the ball. They had the seventh ranked offense and the eighth ranked defense, I believe. He really built something out of nothing. Obviously, they were a top 5 pick last year where I think they picked second when they get Travis Hunter. This is kind of unrelated, but I was thinking as I was watching this game on Saturday or Sunday, and I was looking at the receivers. I'm like, they got Brian Thomas Jr., Jacoby Myers, who they just signed to another deal, Parker Washington, who all of a sudden looks like one of the best slot receivers in the NFL. And then you got Travis Hunter, and I'm like, does this mean Travis Hunter is going to play cornerback full time next season just because of the depth they have at receiver? What do you think?
100%, man. We talked about Travis Hunter when he got drafted. I'm like, he's not a wide receiver. He's a cornerback, and that's where they should play him. I don't know why they were trying to make him a slot wide receiver, and he looked okay at times. I mean, he was fine, but I think you
That's
found the guy
good.
in Parker Washington, make him, yeah, he was fine. But I think cornerback is his true calling, man. he's good cornerback. I think you should play him at corner and call it a
Yeah,
day.
I think like the growth of the other guys, especially Parker Washington, the trade for Jacoby Myers. I mean, they traded for Myers after Hunter got hurt, but he's been so good for them and they extend him. I think it's almost going to be like we have so much talent at wide receiver. You could be, I guess, our wide receiver 4, in some of these packages, but for the most part, I think he'll probably be
Unless
playing
they trade
corner,
Brian Thomas Jr.
which they very well could, and just elevate Travis Hunter. But I think he's still on a rookie deal. It's his second season. He had a rough season. I expect him to bounce back. He made some big plays against the Bills, so he's still got the talent. He just had like a weird up and down season for whatever reason. Next, the Pittsburgh Steelers. They were the 4 seed, had a very, very strange season. They make it to the playoffs in week 18, thanks to Tyler Loop missing, I think it was a 48-yard field goal. So it's crazy how these coin flip moments can decide so much. John Harbaugh gets fired as a result. He probably doesn't get fired if he makes the playoffs. Maybe Mike Tomlin gets fired if they miss the playoffs. Maybe he gets fired anyway. But anyway, before the season, their over-under was 8.5. We both went over on that, and they obviously ended up winning 10 games and that division. I think we were both right about the Steelers, but what did we get right about the Steelers?
I mean, we know this is what the Steelers do. 9-10 wins every year. I mean, they just somehow. They just got lucky that Baltimore had such a fall off. But I mean, the Steelers probably make it in at 9-10 wins again, anyways, right? They like every year, just consistent. But I think Mike Tomlin might get fired after that ass whooping they took on Monday night against the Texans. I don't know. I don't like this is his I think 5th straight playoff loss or something like that. So
8th.
he may not come back. And
8th straight
is that
playoff
okay?
loss.
So 8 straight playoff.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, so I don't think he's coming back from that. Plus, their quarterback situation has been weird since Big Ben retired. Like, I don't understand what they're doing. Like, it's like you've had 5 years to go get a quarterback, develop them. You haven't done that. You keep messing around with Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, right? A weird set of Mason Rudolph. So I don't know what they're doing.
Kenny Pickett. They
I mean,
did
if I'm
draft
Mike
Kenny
Tomlin, I'm
Pickett.
like, please fire me. Can he? He sucked, but okay.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah, if I'm
just
Mike,
to say they tried.
yeah,
So
okay. They
that was
drafted
a weak
one. They
quarterback
drafted one
class.
guy. They tried.
But
Yeah,
it was weird.
Yeah, let's take a quarterback in the weakest class.
Yeah, exactly. Where Malik Willis, credit to him, he was like a 3rd-round pick. He's probably the best quarterback in that class at this point. Who knows where he ends up next season? But they did try at least to get Kenny Pickett. But then after that, like you said, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers, Trubisky. Well, I guess Trubisky was a few years before that. But yeah, 8 straight playoff losses. They haven't won, basically been one and done. It's one of those things where, I guess you want your team to be competitive. You want your team to contend. But at some point, there's that famous clip of Mike Tomlin where he's talking to Chase Young. This was obviously a few years back when Chase Young was still on Washington. And he said something like, I never want to be bad enough to get a guy like you. And he's basically saying, I never want to be picking in the top 5. And it's maybe you should. You know what I mean? Maybe this whole, this commitment to mediocrity, it's not even mediocrity because you're still making the playoffs and you're still above 500. But, at some point, you have to hit that reset button, right?
For sure. It was you remember the Atlanta Hawks of the mid 2000s? They were just yeah, we're the 8th seed every year, but we're content with that. It was Al Horford, Joe Johnson, we're doing great. We're we're the 7th seed. Yeah, we did it again, 7th seed. And then they just get swept in the first round. That's what the Steelers are right now. And they just got to blow it up at some point. And I think that starts with firing Mike Tomlin. And then, go see. Maybe Will Howard is your quarterback. Maybe you draft another guy. But their defense is so good. It's just that their defense will keep them in games, and that's what it keeps happening, right? With TJ Watt, but he's always he's been hurt quite a bit, but their defense is just good, and they're basically good enough to get them 8-9 wins every year. So I think you just got to take a chance on a young guy like Will Howard or go draft another one in this draft class.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, this class is not that deep, but especially we don't even know who's declared yet. Dante Moore is supposed to be the number 2 quarterback, hasn't even declared. So there's a long road ahead. I think the worst thing they can do is basically try to do this again because you mentioned it, but basically, the fall off with Baltimore with Lamar missing 5 games and they couldn't quite figure it out. Joe Burrow misses a ton of time, so the Bengals are mediocre, and then obviously Cleveland being Cleveland. they kind of backed into this division title where the better thing probably would have been to just miss the playoffs. And I hope they don't bring Aaron Rodgers back next year. Like let's not go through this whole, these shenanigans again. Let's just hit the reset button. The next team, speaking of the ass whooping they caught Monday night, was the Houston Texans, who are a very strange team. They over under before the season was 9.5. We both went over. I think we both picked them to win the division. They ended up falling just short of that. They started off 0-3, went on this long win streak, and now all of a sudden they look like Super Bowl contenders thanks to that insane defense. So what did we get right about the Texans?
Yeah, I think we were all about that defense, and we knew that defense was going to be nasty. And I mean, CJ Stroud hasn't looked horrendous. He hasn't looked amazing, but he hasn't looked horrendous
He
either.
did
He's
on
just
Monday.
been kind of like average.
He looked horrible on Monday night, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think CJ Stroud depending on the defense, will look horrendous. But their defense, man, I want to say their defense reminds me of that was the early 2000 Ravens team that went to the Super Bowl and just just took no prisoners on their way there. That's the kind of defense they have, and like they could win with they won with Trent Dilfer at quarterback, right? So the Texans could win with CJ Stroud at quarterback with that kind of defense, and they're just a nasty bunch, and it's hard to run on them, it's hard to pass on them, it's hard to do anything. So if your defense is shutting guys out, who knows? We'll see. Maybe this is the test the Patriots can't pass, and it's the Texans who are in the AFC Championship game because their defense is nasty, and I like what they're doing. Shout out to D'Amico Ryans, and shout out to Azeez El-Shahir. He's been balling with them too, ex-Niner there. So they've just built a nasty defense. I like what they've done there, and I think if you can score 8 touchdowns on that Texans defense, you have a chance of beating the Texans because of CJ Stroud.
I'm gonna pause you right there. So I just got the notification from your buddy Ari Meirov, your favorite NFL reporter. Mike Tomlin is leaving the Steelers after 18 seasons with the organization. So looks like they are.
Hey, he's gonna be the Raiders' next coach, Khaled. He's coming to Vegas.
I don't know how I feel about
Mike Tomlin in Vegas?
I do, because I wouldn't mind it. I like him a lot. I like him as I think things get stale after a while in the same building. Like he's really clever. He's got a lot of one-liners. He's a very, he's a culture builder, all that stuff. I think after a while, without a quarterback in the building, like a real contending type quarterback, I think all that stuff can fall flat. And the fact that he is, he's never lost, right? Like he's never had a losing season. I know it's a commitment to mediocrity, like we said at times, but that has to mean something. And he's a guy that, like, you think about all the crazy personalities he's coached and managed over the years, like Le'Veon Bell, certified nutcase. We didn't know about that when he was in Pittsburgh. Antonio Brown, same thing. He was kept under wraps and managed by Mike Tomlin. So I want the Raiders to go out and get some new blood, but I wouldn't be mad at this move, if that does end up what's happening. I think he'll probably end up doing TV for a few years. He's been coaching for a long time. Maybe he'll take some time off and, like
yeah,
Vrabel,
it sounds like he wants to step away from coaching. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a grind, and he's been at it for 20 years straight, basically
sure.
on the same team. So, but anyway, let's back to the Texans. We both picked them to win the division. Obviously, things were really wacky in that division, right? The Colts were like 7-1, and then they end up falling off. The Texans, like we said, start 0-3, then they bounce back, and then they lose some close games to keep them away from winning the division. But it's a team where it is very one-sided, very, very ball dominant on the defensive sides. But it's a type of year where it would not surprise me if they make the Super Bowl, just like any other team in the AFC, because of that defense. We've seen so many teams. I know it's been a while. It's probably been maybe like 8-9 years since like a really dominant defense has been the reason a team made it to the Super Bowl. I'm probably thinking like Denver in 2016 was like the one that, had a bad offense, but a great defense,
What about your Eagles with Jalen Hurts at quarterback?
The Eagles that had 2,000-yard rusher, Saquon Barkley.
No, I was talking about a couple of years before that. I mean, Jalen Hurts their offense was balling, but their defense was pretty good too, right? It was like top 3.
Yeah, I just mean
they were the reason that they were carried there. Yeah.
Yeah, I just mean like a team that has like a bottom 10 offense and a top 3 defense. Like I don't think we've seen that.
Yeah, it's been a long time. It's been a long time.
Yeah, right. I mean, Peyton Manning won the Super Bowl throwing for like 130 yards, and he basically had one arm at that point because his neck injury came back. So it's been a while, so we might see that again where CJ Stroud is just being carried. I mean, he's capable of some special stuff occasionally, but we haven't seen it too much this year, especially against good teams. So him against like that Broncos pass rush. I mean, the Patriots pass rush isn't great, but their defense is great. So it'll be a good test for them. Next up, the Buffalo Bills. So they were a team that I think both of us thought was going to be the best team in the AFC. Their over-under was 11.5. We both went over, and they did go over by half a game. They win 12 games. They do not win the AFC East. Obviously, they're a wild card team. What did we get right, and what did we get wrong about the Bills?
Yeah, I mean, we both knew Bills are going to make the playoffs. They were a 12-win team. They didn't win enough to win the AFC East. It's just a weird team. We were talking about it like a little bit earlier, right? Where they have like great wins, and you're like, oh yeah, this could be a contending team, and then they have like these head scratching losses or head scratching plays even in games. You're like, what is Josh Allen doing? What is this defense doing? So it's just, I don't know. They're a very Jekyll and Hyde type of team, right? You're like, which Bills am I going to get this week, right? You don't know. You don't know what Josh Allen you're going to get, what Bills defense you're going to get, what James Cook is going to do. Like, there's just everyone is up and down, right? Like, they won that game against the Jaguars, but like the offense was pretty stagnant, and then they got going somehow in the second half, but the defense was good. So I don't know. It's just a weird year for the Bills. I feel like we were saying that for the last 2-3 years. Get Josh Allen some weapons. I feel like James Cook is his only weapon. I feel like I don't know. I mean, people like
Yeah, the
Dilton
only
Kincaid,
consistent
but
weapon.
that's
Yeah.
it, right? Like who's his receivers? Yeah,
He was
he has
throwing
no
like,
consistent weapons outside of James Cook. So get the
yeah,
man some
I
wide
mean,
receivers.
Keon Coleman made a couple plays. Brandon Cooks, of all people, I feel like they keep doing this where they get a guy like late in the season. Like last year it was Amari Cooper. A couple years back it was like John Brown. This year it's Brandon Cooks. Like guys off the scrap heap. At least they tried with Keon Coleman. I know people were blasting him for not picking Xavier Worthy, but it's not like he's been anything special, so they didn't miss out, too much on him. But it is one of those weird teams where the defense is just, it's flat out bad for a long time, or for long stretches of the game where they're giving up 8 yards to carry or whatever. But then they come up with a couple big plays here and there. They have some opportunistic, turnovers, things like that. We saw it against Cincinnati. They had some big turnovers that ended up winning them the game. And then they had the 2 turnovers against Jacksonville, including the big 4th down stop. So it's a defense that's not very good, but they have a couple playmakers here and there that can make the difference. And then ultimately, it's just Josh. I'm like, hey, Josh Allen, put that cape on and save us, basically. And that's what he did against Jacksonville. I don't see them beating Denver, like we said. I think for those reasons, unless, of course, Josh Allen is Superman again, and that's really the only thing I could see that and sometimes it's really like simple to say, but sometimes it really just does come down to which team has a better quarterback. He's been able to deliver time and time again. And the funny thing is, it's like they haven't won I think a road playoff game since 1992. They were saying on the broadcast, and they're going to have to win possibly 3 playoff games, or definitely 3 playoff games on the road to make it to the Super Bowl. So it would be pretty funny if that's what ends up happening. But I think we were spot on about them being like a good team, but not. I don't think we saw, obviously, the Patriots being a 14-win team, that's fine. I don't think anybody did outside of the Boston area. So the last team here in the AFC, the Los Angeles Chargers, who actually just fired offense coordinator Greg Roman today. He probably never should have been hired in the first place, but Jim Harbaugh loves the guy for some reason. They're before the season, the over-under was 9.5. We both went over. I think we both thought that they would be a decent wild card team. And honestly, it was kind of a miracle that they made the playoffs at all, considering everything that's happening to them. So what did we get right or wrong about the Chargers?
I mean, we didn't foresee all those injuries on the offensive line. I'm still shocked that they were snuck in as the 7th wild card with basically their entire offensive line was injured and Justin Herbert was getting killed every game. But somehow their defense is elite, offense not so elite, but how much of that is Justin Herbert's not elite, or how much of that is Justin Herbert is running for his life every single play of the game? But yeah, I mean, surprisingly, I think if they get that offensive line, at least their 2 tackles, Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt, healthy and back, they're a team that can make some noise next year. We saw some regression from Ladd McConkey, which was fine, we kind of expected, but we didn't see Omarion Hampton be that, first round running back that, that's gonna take the league by storm. He just looked okay, average. We probably if you watched him play, you'd be like, oh, this guy went in the 4th round, or he's like a 3rd round pick. Missed a lot of time, was hurt. So I think a lot of factors, but surprisingly they made the wild card, and you just build on that. Like, you can be like, hey, can't get any worse for us in terms of injuries this next year, right? Like, at least Herbert was healthy, even though he was running for his life every play. So we'll see what happens next year with the offensive line. I think their defense will stay elite. It just leaps and bounds from the young guys that they need.
Mhm. Yeah, you would hope so, right? That they don't have the same injury luck. I think the reason they made the playoffs is I think the other teams that would have contended for it, they also had bad injury luck, but they didn't miss their quarterback, basically. I mean, Cincinnati, Joe Burrow was out for a long time. Baltimore, same thing. Lamar Jackson misses 5 games. The Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, he misses the last, I think, 4 games of the season. So it's like they also had really bad injury luck, but it just didn't hit them at the quarterback spot, which was obviously the most important thing. So I think they were not really a playoff team this season. And they basically snuck in just because everybody else fell apart and they didn't. So credit to them for not falling apart. They kept that defense together. It's really weird. I mean, Jim Harbaugh is supposed to be this offensive guy. He's a former quarterback, but I don't think he ever really has elite offenses and he just builds elite defenses everywhere he goes. I'm not sure how that works. But Justin Herbert,
I
I
mean,
want to talk to you about
he
him
had
real
elite
quick.
offenses with the Niners. He had elite offenses with the Niners with Kaepernick, but that was all based on running.
Yeah, elite is a strong word. But Justin Herbert, is he currently the most divisive quarterback in the NFL? Or is it Jalen Hurts? Or both?
Oh man, that's a tough one, Khaled. I think I think it's between Herbert and Hurts, right? Like, depends on who you ask, right? There are people that love Herbert. There are people like Herbert's a fraud. He's not good. How many excuses are people gonna make? It's been 5 years and people just excuse after excuse. But I mean, look, the reality is he has those excuses. It's not like people are like pulling out excuses out of the woodwork, like, oh, it's his offensive coordinator. He was hurt, or his defense blew the game, or now he has no offensive line, right? Like, these are like, I think, legitimate excuses. I think Jalen Hurts is kind of in that same field there with Justin Herbert when we'll talk about him too, but like he's kind of regressed. I mean Herbert didn't look like he regressed a lot. It's just I don't know. There was like it didn't seem like Harbaugh had a game plan for Herbert once the offensive line kind of went downhill, and it was just like, hey, just freewheel it, Herbert, and figure it out, right? And that's kind of what Herbert did. I think what people miss is the fact that like you could put Justin Herbert on another team and you probably talking about him as a lead quarterback. That's my opinion. And other people like I don't know you call it I know feel on the opposite end of that spectrum. So and it is what it is, right? Like I think we'll never know until we see it from him.
Yeah. You know what? I actually felt bad for him. Watching that game against the Patriots, I was like, this guy has talent. I'm not saying he's not a talented quarterback, but he was just getting destroyed on and it wasn't even a great pass rush, or it's not a great pass rush on from the New England side. So you watch that game and you're like, how did this team win 10 games? How did this team win 7 games with the way that they looked? I know New England has a good defense, so maybe they got exposed, but there's so much of like this hero ball element to their offense where it is Justin Herbert just saving the day. And maybe you can do that at home against like the Eagles. That was their big, probably signature win, or at home against the Broncos. I think they did beat the Broncos a few weeks back or several weeks back, but against another playoff team on the road, all the focus, they've had a whole week to game plan for you. They're not worried about the week after that. All that stuff got exposed. And then you have Greg Roman, who's just not a good offensive coordinator. He's failed just about everywhere he's gone, after that San Francisco, that run he had with the Kaepernick team. So they need like a whole refresh. If they get somebody like Mike McDaniel in there, I think he'll probably get a head coaching job, but give me some fresh ideas in the building. We can't have Greg Roman running the show anymore. So I'm not out on Herbert. I do think he is a phenomenally like physically talented quarterback. My concern is like he's had so many years where he's been hurt or he's just been gotten the shit kicked out of him. He got sacked 60 times this year, and it probably should have been more if he wasn't 6'6", 230 or whatever he is. I wonder, like I worry that the beating has gotten to him, and hopefully for Chargers fans they're probably hoping that that's not the case. Let's pivot over to the NFC. So the NFC, the number 1 seed Seattle Seahawks, a very bizarre team before the season. Their over-under was 7.5. You went under at 7. I think you were out on Sam Darnold as a quarterback. I went 9 wins. I thought they would be competitive in the NFC West. I did not think they were going to win 14 games and be the 1 seed. So what did you not see for Seattle?
Their defense, I didn't see their defense being this elite. I think the Seattle defense is number 1 in the NFL or number 2 behind the Texans,
Yeah, it's number one in
and they were elite.
points allowed. Yeah, number one scoring defense.
Okay, yeah, number 1 scoring defense. Yeah, so they were elite. Teams couldn't score, and it doesn't matter how bad Sam Darnold played. I mean, there were games where he was good. He threw for like 300 yards, multiple touchdowns, things like that. I'm not saying that, but I think Sam Darnold wasn't consistent. But there were weeks where he kind of lifted them up, and so that was fine. I didn't expect that out of Sam Darnold, and I didn't expect this elite defense that they have now. So they're kind of a scary team now, and now you have to go the road through the NFC goes through Seattle, which is always scary given their home field advantage. And so yeah, I mean, the only thing I wish Seattle would do more of is give Kenneth Walker the ball and stop messing with Zach Charbonnet. But I guess they proved it against the Niners. They can do both, but I do think their run game could be better, but that's probably their only weakness. And
Yeah,
you can exploit Sam Darnold with the right defense.
you can. And he was exposed a couple times. There was the Minnesota game comes to mind where, I mean, I know it's Brian Flores and that's kind of what he does is he tortures quarterbacks. But if they weren't playing, I think Max Brosmer is the guy's name. If they weren't playing Brosmer, even if they were playing JJ McCarthy, I don't think they win that game. And there was, the first 3.5 quarters or 3 quarters of the last game against the Rams where he just looked awful. And there's so many games like that. There's so many inconsistencies where there's some weeks where Sam Darnold looks like the best quarterback in the league. He's throwing in rhythm, he's throwing deep, he's doing all the little things. And then there's the other weeks where, again, like Minnesota, most of the game against the Rams, even the last game against the Niners, he was not great. He made a couple key plays.
Yeah, he was not great.
No,
Yeah.
he wasn't. But that's the thing, right? Is he's capable of some great things here and there, but that defense, I've said it a million times on different pods, but it's like a great defense, more than a great offense. Like a great defense gives you so much more margin for error. Because if you can hold the other team to 10, 13, 14, 17 points, whatever, your offense, if you're playing against a okay defense and your offense has talent like they do, you're going to get to 20 points, right? It's almost like by default, just by, a couple field goals, hit a couple big plays to JSN, maybe Kenneth Walker breaks a run or two, or Sam Darnold takes off and scrambles, like your defense is going to give you so much more margin for error. And that's exactly what's happening here. And the thing is, like, you look at some of the games, especially they played in the NFC West, it's like a game here or there to the Rams, they lose that other game to the Rams. Rashid Shaheed doesn't have that big comeback, that big punt return. And then they're the 5 seed and they're not this big, scary juggernaut. So I know obviously they are 1 seed. It is a scary place to play, but they're not a juggernaut by any means. I don't think any team in the league this year is. So that's kind of been the theme, right? But they very well could win the Super Bowl very easily. I don't see that as it wouldn't be surprising to anybody, I think.
Yeah. I would hate that though. I would hate them winning in Levi's.
Oh, that's right. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, it's a short trip for Seattle fans, so it'll be packed with blue and whatever that green, I think neon green or electric green, whatever the hell that other color is. But they're a fun team. I like watching them. That's the type of team that I would like to root for. Elite defense, a quarterback with a big arm. Give me that all day. Strong run game, all that stuff. Speaking of weird teams, the Chicago Bears were a very, very surprising 2 seed in the NFC. Before the season, they over-under was 8.5. You went under. I went over. I thought they would be a 10-win team. So what did you not see about the Bears?
Yeah. I mean, I think what I said about the Bears was it's spot on. They just got some Caleb
100%.
magic that, helped them win a few games that they shouldn't have won. Caleb took the leap a little bit and he looked good, especially the last few games, and he can lead that offense. And I mean, but they've had some shootouts, right? They had that shootout with the Bengals, they had the shootout with the Niners. So their defense has been up and down. I don't know. They're a super weird team, and I feel like they've just been pretty lucky. And who knows, maybe they continue that momentum into the playoffs and keep getting lucky and keep winning, right? You don't know. But
They
Caleb,
did. They did
somehow
against Green Bay.
just yeah, yeah. They just made plays out of nowhere and they somehow win games. And hey, maybe that's good enough to win the Super Bowl. I don't know, but they're just a weird team, right? They're so reminiscent of the Bills to me. I feel like the Bills in the AFC and the Bears in the NFC are the same team. Is what it feels like to me. Minus the elite quarterback. But Caleb is getting there.
There's a play, 2-3 plays a game where he does look like an elite quarterback. I mean, he's in his second year, so there's going to be some growing pains, but They are a very, very strange team. Defensively, they are not that good. They'll make some plays here and there. I think they did lead the league in takeaways or interceptions, one of the two categories. So not a good scoring defense, but they do make plays when it really counts. And it was just funny, like the same thing that's been happening to them all year, where they're down for most of the game, or they're like it's tied up in the last 2 minutes, and they somehow figure out a way to win. Just like off the top of my head, they block a kick in the last play of the game against the Raiders to win that game. They throw that. There's like 30 seconds left, and he throws that touchdown to Colston Loveland against the Bengals. The Packers game where they come back with get the onside kick, take it to overtime, and end up winning in overtime. So it's like those 3 wins, if they go the other way, which very easily could have gone the other way, and all of a sudden they're not even a playoff team. There's just like, but there is something to be said about like that belief that like even last week they're up down 21-3, I think at half, and nobody thought it was over. You're like, this is a second half team, this is a fourth quarter team, this is a 2-minute warning team, whatever. Like you just can't count these guys out, and they just kept fighting back, kept fighting. And I think if they obviously hadn't done that, 10 other times this year, they probably don't do it against Green Bay in the wild card weekends. I don't. It's again, I wouldn't be surprised if they win the Super Bowl, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they get blown out by the Rams. So it's like this is a really weird. But the weather is going to be really, really bad. It's going to be like -14. Oh, I
They have a chance of beating the Rams in -14 because the Rams are not a cold weather team.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially Matt Stafford. He's not a cold weather quarterback.
He is not. So, I mean, as an aside, how do you feel about cold weather games in the playoffs? Like really, really cold weather.
Oh, I hate it. I hate it. I don't love it. I'm like, why are we letting the weather dictate what happens in a game? Like, it was like very painful to watch that Philly Niners game because of the wind. I was just like, what is going on? Like, nobody can throw the ball. Nobody can do what. Like, it was just really hard for these guys to throw the ball, and like it was just like a painful game to watch. Like, literally, you could see like trash floating on the field, and it's like, dang, is that kind of windy?
Yeah.
But I hate it. I was like, why don't all NFL teams should have a dome to play when it's cold. Like they should just cover it up, play in the dome.
I'm with you.
I mean, you're building $1 billion stadiums. Khaled, this could be a separate podcast, but they're building $1 billion stadiums. You can't build a freaking retractable roof. Come on.
I tweeted that this morning when I saw the Bears like forecast. I was like, these games, I know I'm like a old school NFL guy, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. I love NFL history, all that stuff. But I don't want weather to decide who wins a game. I want the best teams to decide. I want the best team on the day. It's not about, who handles the weather better or whatever. Okay, rain, sure, we can handle that. But it's like, when it gets so cold to the point where like you can't even function as a human being in this weather, it's like, why are we playing a football game in this weather? Why are we letting cold weather decide a game? There's like a couple that come to mind. Like a couple years ago was Chiefs Dolphins on a Saturday night, and it's not like the Dolphins were going to win that game, but it was just brutally cold, so cold that like you remember Mahomes' helmet shattered when he was running on the goal line because it was so cold. There was a couple years before that. It was Seahawks Vikings. It was the year that the Vikings were playing outdoors because their stadium was under construction, and it was like -20 or -30 or something. Ended up being like a 10-7 game that the Vikings lost on a last-second field goal. It's like people lie to themselves. People lie to themselves about these games. Like, oh man, the Ice Bowl, and it was so cold, and then like this is real football weather and all that stuff. It's like no. I'm watching, like, for example, I'm watching the college football playoff.
It's not.
Yeah, these games are in a dome. It's a controlled environment. That Ole Miss was it Ole Miss Miami? Incredible game, a shootout. There was big hits. There's big plays, and it's in a dome. It's in a controlled environment, and the better team won. It's like I want more of that in the NFL. I don't want -20-degree weather. I think Bears fans will probably get mad because they're like, the weather favors us, and they think that the Rams are a better team. So I get why you want that weather, but nobody wants that shit. Nobody in the stands wants it. Nobody in Green Bay wants it. I think Aaron Rodgers probably wins 2 more Super Bowls if they played in a dome instead of that weather. I think Buffalo, same thing. You have Josh Allen, who's like a Ferrari of a quarterback. You don't want him driving in the snow. That was a bit of an aside there, but I'm glad you agree with me because most people don't. I don't think most people agree with me when I say that I don't want these cold weather games.
Bro, I want a dome if it's raining even. Like if it's rain, put the roof up. I don't want to watch a rain game sometimes. It's just like balls slipping out, balls doing that. It doesn't matter. It's the rain, bro. Like
Yeah.
normal people don't play in the rain.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm with you. All right. Anyway, so the Bears, again, weird team, could win a Super Bowl, could get blown out. We'll see. But they've been a lot of fun. So credit to them for being probably the most fun team in the NFL to watch this year. Next, the Philadelphia Eagles, who proved to be very fraudulent this past weekend. Their over-under was 11.5. You went under, slightly under at 11. I went over at 13. They ended up going slightly under at 11. So what did you see about the Eagles? Was it just Super Bowl hangover?
Yeah, a little bit of that, and change like their new offensive coordinator, who by all means did not run this team well. Like I don't know what was going on. Like why they decided that they were not going to be a pass first team anymore, or they weren't going to feed AJ Brown the ball anymore. Like it's just weird. It was just weird. Like you could see it the first few weeks of the season. They're like, no, we're going to try to run like 20 times a game, but Saquon's not really running that well, and Jalen Hurts is just doing whatever. I don't know. Their whole season just had a weird kind of vibe to it, and their defense was always it's been good. It's been good. The defensive line's been nasty, so they just kind of hung around, won games, things like that. But like it was just weird. Like I'm like, why are you not like AJ Brown? He's your star wide receiver. You're literally treating him like a third string wide receiver is what it felt like. I feel like if you look at his targets, he's probably like in the bottom half of the NFL in terms of targets.
They had no creativity on offense. And even for the most, basic football fan, like you can watch and be like, I feel like they're just doing the same thing over and over. It's just short throws, hitches, screens, whatever. Like, especially like there's no better proof or use case or whatever you want to say for how much coaching matters in the NFL, that you can take essentially the same team from last season, right? They're maybe missing, I know they missed Lane Johnson for parts of the season, things like that. But for the most part, like 9 out of the 11 starters, I think, came back from last season. And this was the most dynamic offense in the NFL. You have Saquon rushing for 2,000 yards, which obviously is not, sustainable. I didn't expect that again. But you take all that and then you come to this season, it's the same guys, and they just looked so lost, so inept. There were so many games where they score, 20 points in the first half, and then there was a game against the Cowboys, I think, where they did not complete a pass in the second half. Like how is that possible? As an NFL football team, you do not complete a pass in the second half of a game. And the funniest meme I kept seeing was it was like Nick Sirianni, and it was like the inventor of the prevent offense. And that's exactly what comes to mind. Like this guy would get a lead, he'd sit on the lead, and just hope that his defense would save him. And sometimes it did, save them against the Rams with that blocked kick. It saved them against the Bills on that 2-point conversion. Basically, that was a bad decision by Buffalo to go for it. But anyway, like there's so many games where like this was not a playoff team or not a playoff offense. For sure, their defense was elite at times, but yeah, they need to like give Mike McDaniel like whatever he wants. Give him, maybe make him like the head coach in waiting.
I don't know if Mike McDaniels can fix this though.
He can, man. Look at
I don't know if he can fix
the
it.
talent on this team. There's so much talent on this team
I think
that
they
was
have
being
talent, but
mismanaged.
it sounds like yeah. Yeah, like I feel like AJ Brown wants out. Jalen Hurts goes from like all pro to like, man, he may not even be a top 10 quarterback anymore in the NFL. Like he may not even be top 15. Like that's what he looked like. He looked like he should be in the bottom half of the NFL in terms of quarterback play. Like I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of it's the lines aging, and also like their star players are like AJ Brown doesn't want to be there. Saquon obviously on the wrong side of 30 now. Things like that. So I think maybe you can, if you get the right talent back in there and let like be like, hey, Mike McDaniels, call whatever you want to call. But then, it comes down to, is Jalen Hurts that guy? Because he looked like he regressed a bit too. But again, how much of that is
He's
the
20,
offensive
man.
coordinator versus
He's 27 years old. It's not like he's over 30,
he's on the
right?
Cam Newton path, Khaled. He's on that Cam Newton path.
Cam Newton was fine until he was 30, right? I mean, he was an MVP until he hit 30, 31
Jalen's
years
2
old.
years away. He's 2 years away now.
Until I see like a track record of this, I'm going to go with the success before that. And he's had 3 or 4 years of being an elite level quarterback. They make a Super Bowl. He has an incredible game, but they lose. And then, of course, last year, he doesn't really have to do much in that game to win, but he gets them to that Super Bowl. I still think he is a very good, like just outside the elite level of quarterback. And I think all these things that you're talking about, I think all those things are fixable. The AJ Brown, like being mad, you can give him more, build the offense around him, get him some creativity, a creative offensive coordinator, like all that stuff is fixable. I think over the offseason, like I wouldn't be surprised if he gets traded, don't get me wrong, but I think all that stuff is fixable. It's not like, anybody's like got really hurt or something like that to miss a bunch of games or they had a catastrophic injury. All that stuff is fixable, and I think they will be back next season. Next, the Carolina Panthers. They over under was 6.5. You went slightly over at 7. I went under at 6. They end up winning 8 games, so they go 8-9, and they win the NFC South. So what did we get right and wrong about the Panthers?
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw, okay, they're going to get a little bit better on offense, which they did. Bryce Young was pretty solid quarterback play for most of the season. Obviously, he had his ups and downs. Defense was not bad. They just benefited from playing in a pretty horrible division where the Saints were pretty bad most of the season. Somehow the Bucks fell off a little bit. The Falcons didn't look great at all. So yeah, they just benefited from being in a pretty weak division and were able to kind of win that division. But I do think, the Panthers are on the right path. They're ascending, progressing well. And maybe next year, maybe they win this division a little bit more outright. It's possible, right? Depending on what happens with the other teams. But I do think the Panthers have a shot at, again, winning the division again next year and being like maybe a 9-10 win team next year.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely were ahead of schedule this season a bit. Like they were a very up and down team. Bryce Young, obviously, like you said, had his ups and downs. I think the team in general, they probably should not have been there. It should have been Tampa if they didn't have a ton of injuries, especially on wide receiver and stuff like that. So I think Tampa just kind of fell apart down the stretch. So they probably should have been that team. But if you're the Panthers, you're like, I mean, we made it fair and square, a little bit ahead of schedule, but they do have some pieces there for next season. They just picked up his 5th-year option, so it sounds like he's the answer. And there are weeks where he does look like a franchise quarterback, some weeks where not so much, but I think there's enough there to be like, okay, I think we got this pick right and we don't have to worry about quarterback. So yeah, they deserve to lose that game to the Rams. They did give them a good fight. They beat them in the regular season, so I wasn't surprised that it was a close game, but they were kind of ahead of schedule for this season. Next, the Rams, who did, pull off a very close victory against the Panthers this weekend. Over-under coming into the season was 9.5. We both went under. I think we both thought Matt Stafford was not going to be healthy this season, and obviously he was. So what else did we get wrong about the Rams?
I think that was it. Because I think there's like, Stafford's elbow is completely like messed up. He was not going to be able to play. He's having back issues. He's doing all this stuff. So it was like, is he going to play? Like when we recorded the podcast at that time, we were like, we didn't even know if he was going to play. Like we didn't know how many games he was going to miss. Is he going to play? And then all of a sudden it turns out, he's perfectly healthy. He played all 16, 17 games is what he played. So, I mean, he was good for most of those games. There were some games where he looked weirdly like off, like the Panthers game where he threw like, was it like 4 picks, 5 picks? Like there were games like
Falcons
that. But
game,
again,
Falcons
Rams
game,
defense
he threw
Falcons
2 pick
game.
sixes. Yeah, 2 pick sixes against the Falcons. Very weird.
Yeah, but again, their defense is good. They have a good running game. They have Puka. They have Devontae Adams. They're just a good, well built team, and it seems like their downfall is going to be Matt Stafford. Like if he has a bad game, that's it. The Rams can't recover. But if he's playing well, the Rams are going to be fine. Like we might see this would be like a nightmare scenario for me where we see a Rams Seahawks NFC championship game. Oh gosh, Khaled, I can't imagine that.
Yeah, Rams or Seahawks winning a Super Bowl in Levi's. I mean, I went through it a couple years ago. The Chiefs won a Super Bowl in Las Vegas. You get over it. It's not that bad. But yeah, they do have all the pieces. And I mean, back to the kind of the cold weather thing, like this is a track team, right? This is a track and field team with all the speed and power they have all over the field. And the fact that they're going to have to play a game in like minus 20-degree weather, I do think that does favor Chicago. So, but they do have a lot of talent. And basically, like you said, like we didn't think Matt Stafford was going to be healthy. And that was basically like the reason we went under is basically because of Matt Stafford. Because obviously with a healthy Matt Stafford, you're like, this is at least an 8-9 win team. He's a really good quarterback. He's probably going to be MVP this season. So that's not our fault. We just got some bad information on the injury front. All right, next up, your boys, the San Francisco 49ers. Before the season, over-under was 10.5. They end up winning 12 games. You went slightly under at 10. I went slightly over at 11, so we both thought they would be a playoff team. How the hell did they get here is the question, I think.
Just oh man, Robert Saleh, man, he's a great defensive coordinator. Obviously, they had a lot of injuries on that side of the ball. Even their offense has like been weird with Ayuk and his whole situation, his diva behavior, and then Ricky Pearsall came on strong the first like 4 or 5 games, and then he gets hurt, and it's like what's going on with him? And it's like who is your wide receiver? Is it Juwan Jennings? He was up and down, and then like Kendrick Bourne has great seasons. Mac Jones stepped in, played like it's just like with this team, it's always been like it's like this season has all been like next man up, right? Like Brock Purdy goes down,
Hmm.
Mac Jones steps in, does a great job. This young defensive team plays well. Fred Warner's gone, Nick Bosa's gone, Michael Williams is gone, right? Like yeah, they just keep losing guys. Now George Kittle towards his Achilles, right in the playoff game. So it's just I don't know. They just keep persevering. Is really their story this season. But that can only get you so far, and we'll see what happens with Seattle. But they have a chance, right? Like it's not like Seattle like killed them in week 18. It was a close game and 1 or 2 mistakes away from winning that game. Um, we'll see. Robert Saleh, I give all that credit to Robert Saleh for making sure this defense did not fall apart, even though they lost so many key pieces. And then and Kyle, man, Kyle's been calling crazy offensive games. Like even though the run game's not going, he's figuring out ways to score. Last week was beautiful when he called that little flea flicker play with Juwan Jennings to CMC. That was great. So Kyle is doing whatever he has to do to get the offense going, and Robert Saleh is keeping the defense from falling apart. So that's how they're here now.
I think it was kind of poetic that they beat the Eagles because just like we've seen how poorly like bad coaching can affect the team or how how big of an impact, like it's the complete opposite story on the other side, right? You have an incredible offensive coach in Kyle Shanahan that's been able to patch things together. We've known for a long time like this guy can take just about any quarterback and make them look competent at the very least, right? Mac Jones, he looks lost in New England. He looks in San Francisco as a backup, and I think he went 4-0 or 4-1, something like that. So, and then obviously Robert Saleh, like you said, all the credit goes to him for keeping this defense afloat. And it's again, coaching matters so much in the NFL. Obviously, the players and the talent, all that stuff is paramount. But you can have all the talent in the world if you don't have a good coach, none of it matters. And at the same time, you can have decent talent. You can have linebackers coming in off the street, like the Niners did last week. But if you have a great coach that puts them in the right position, all that stuff, like it was just such a great counterpoint to how bad the Eagles coaching has been this season to how good the Niners coaching has been. Like you said, that can only take you so far. So you wonder, like, this resilient ride, like how long is this joyride going to last? It's probably going to come to a screeching halt in Seattle, but who knows? Who knows? It's what's been a weird season so far. Last and kind of least here, the Green Bay Packers, who might be firing Matt LaFleur. We'll see. Before the season, their over-under was 9.5. You went over at 10. I went over at 11. They went slightly under at 9. I think the Micah Parsons trade happened while we were on the pod or just before, or I think it was like just after, but there was rumors and we were like, oh, Packers Super Bowl contenders. Obviously, Parsons doesn't finish the season because of the ACL injury, but was that just the story of the season? Like they were just not healthy enough to be real contenders?
Yeah, I think so. And their defense didn't look good. They were just I don't know, weird season for them. But yeah, Love gets hurt for a little bit. Defense doesn't look good. Golden looks like a first round bust. So just I mean, I think maybe if that defense is fully healthy, maybe you're seeing a little bit better play out of the Packers. Maybe they win 2 or 3 more games. But we'll see. We'll see next year what it looks like for them. Yeah, Josh Jacobs was banged up. The run game didn't get going. I think they started off pretty strong and then they just kind of just went downhill pretty quick for them
Yeah,
with all those
they
injuries and
cratered.
stuff like that. So let's see. Yeah,
Do you
let's see
think
what they do
LaFleur's
next year.
You think LaFleur gets fired this offseason?
They haven't fired him yet, so I'm thinking no. They would have done it already. So I'm thinking he doesn't get fired. I think he
Yeah,
sticks around another year. But if he kind of has the same season, he gets fired next year for sure.
yeah. I see them giving him one more year. I think the Packers is just like the weird organization because they don't have that outspoken owner period. So you don't have that guy that's going to be like the final decision maker that might make a more rash decision to get rid of LaFleur, who's been a playoff coach. They just seem to always get there. They always have these injuries. They fall just short. Like they're like, okay, they're a favorite to win the division. Then, one key injury here and there keeps them away from winning it. They're still like missing a wide receiver one. They lose Tucker Kraft. So you're like, okay, you kind of give them some grace and you're like, all right, maybe they can patch things together for next season. And it's going to be a tough division like it always is. You don't expect Minnesota to stay down that far. You don't expect Detroit. You expect Detroit to bounce back. So, and then Chicago obviously is like this new power in the NFC North. So there's a lot going on there. So that's it for the playoff teams. Is there one or two teams that you're just like absolutely flabbergasted that they didn't make the playoffs?
I would say the Lions kind of were like one where like, oh man, they didn't make the playoffs. Where it was like they're so good, and then they didn't really fall up that much, but it just weird defense, offensive line play, things like that. That one kind of surprised me in the NFC where they weren't even a wild card team. AFC, I mean Ravens, but there were some injury concerns. Chiefs injury concerns, Bengals injury concerns, right? So I mean, I think one of those 3 teams could have made it if they weren't all injured, but it wasn't surprising once we saw the injuries. But I think the Chiefs may have still missed the playoffs even with a healthy Patrick Mahomes. So that would have been
Yeah.
even maybe a bit more shocking if the Chiefs had a healthy Mahomes and they missed the playoffs. Like they were still like not great with Mahomes healthy. So that was probably the only other team.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think any of the teams are really shocking. Detroit probably the only one. They still go 9-8. They basically just miss out on a tiebreaker because they didn't win some games in the division. They got swept, I think, by the Packers, but they ended up sweeping Chicago. So then they lose that huge game against Minnesota to the third string quarterback. So there's just it was a team that I think the effect, obviously, of losing Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, that it actually showed. And we've seen it time and time again. Like you lose the offense coordinator, defense coordinator, and you know guys like us will be like, oh, I think they'll be okay, they'll be fine, like they'll just keep things going, and then you know. And in the case of the Eagles, it was a huge fall off. In the case of Detroit, it was like a smaller fall off where people didn't quite notice it, but it was just like enough of a problem like on the margins where they end up, losing a couple games here and there that they probably shouldn't have lost. And obviously they end up missing the playoffs. So this was a lot of fun, man. It's always fun to look back at our predictions, see how we did. This has been probably like the wildest NFL season in, I don't even know how long. There's like no clear favorite. You could pick any of the teams remaining, be like, that's the Super Bowl matchup, and be like, yeah, that makes sense. Those Broncos,
Yeah,
Niners, I don't know, Rams, Bills, like whatever. Just you pick any two names out
those
of a hat
Niners.
and be
Yeah,
like, yeah, why not? Yeah,
Texans, Rams. Like so, yeah. Could be anyone. Why not? I'm gonna go
exactly.
Niners, Texans. Let's call it that.
Niners, Texans, the D'Amico Ryans, Kyle Shanahan Bowl. I'm not going to make a prediction because I can't at this point. I'm just going to let it ride. But I think it would be fun to see Seattle in there. I mean, I know not for you, but I think just a team that I enjoyed watching. And then, let's say Broncos Seahawks, a rematch of that terrible Super Bowl, from 10 years ago or whatever. So, man, I appreciate you. Folks,
Yeah.
please make sure to hit that like, follow, subscribe button wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast. And we'll see you guys next time. Peace.